Good morning, everybody. Online, good morning here in person. Say good morning to online.
Morning.
Hey, so we have a wonderful day planned for you all. Barry even put on pants for us today. He's going to be the presenter. So before we kick it off, let's start how we do every week with tell me something good. Let me see. I did. Okay. Susan, you ready? Mind standing up and telling us something good? You're hidden behind Crystal.
I have a listing coming on the market next month. It's a 5-bedroom plus a den, almost 4,000 square feet, single story on an acre in Lincoln.
Yeah, it's a unicorn listing. Yeah. So congratulations. It's gonna be about $100 million. And who else? Who else? Pretty girl, stand up. What you got?
Oh, just more new inventory, like a couple of houses, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but just there's hope for your buyers. There's new stuff coming on the market, so just be patient. I'm doing the same thing, waiting for new stuff for my buyers too. So
Awesome. Where are you getting these listings? Where are these listings coming from?
past clients,
Past clients?
staying in touch with them and making sure that they don't forget about me.
There you go. Awesome. Well done, gorgeous. All right. Oh yeah. So Zach has 2 pieces of information to share.
Oh, yeah, well,
And Audrey, Mama Audrey.
yeah, so, we just went into contract with the client that we've been working with for a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was big, but some non-business related news, I just got engaged.
Boom! That's awesome. Congratulations to that. Misha, go ahead, stand up. What do you got?
So I've been escrow March 1st on a house over here in Rockland. Yeah, and then my listing, we should be getting it offered today or tomorrow. So crossing my fingers so we can go find a replacement property for her.
Awesome, man. Where are you getting these clients from?
The Rockland people in the house and listing just calling.
There you go. There you go. Last but certainly not least, Miss Cindy Silva in the background. What do you got?
Just put 2 in escrow, got 2 new listings. But I'd say what I'm most proud about is Brenda on my team. She had a client, she sent them to my lender, and from the time they were pre-approved to their signing today has been 12 days. And
Wow.
I'm gonna give props to them.
Yay! Congratulations, Brendan. So there's lots of good things happening. Go ahead, Clark. What do you got?
Yes, we have a new agent joining us, Tabitha Higdon.
Welcome, Tabitha. Team's growing. So there's a lot of doom and gloom, which we'll get into as soon as Rodney starts talking about rates. But there is good things happening in the market, right? Buyers are buying, sellers are selling. Just work hard and it works. So Rodney, what do you got for us? What's your lender update?
Actually, I'm going to jump up here if that's okay. And
Absolutely.
Slow things down to try and save some time because there's a lot going on. First thing I want to talk about today is what I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. It's a phenomenal program. I don't know how long it's going to be around. Anybody who wants to buy a house that's been on the fence, this should pull them off the fence. It's a 20% down payment assistance, right? 20%. That's crazy. That avoids MI, which will probably save them another $300 in a typical deal a month. Besides the 20% down, that's going to help them save a lot of money up the monthly payment. 700 is a big number to remember. I'm just going to give the highlights on it right now. It goes live on the 27th of this month, right? So now's the time to get your buyer pre-approved because this is going to be like a horse race because they will probably run out of money before the year's over for sure. And I don't know how fast it will go, but it's going to go pretty quick. So 700 FICO score is important because if you're under 700 FICO score, you're going to qualify with 45% of your income versus 50%. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal if you're 700 or more. It's a shared appreciation. That's how they're getting it back because there's no monthly payments on that 20% down payment given. And you don't even share 50%, right? Which is what I kind of would have thought at first. You're going to share only 15 or 20% based on your income. If you're under 80% of the area that you're buying in, then you're only going to share 15%. If you're over 80% on the income, you're going to share 20%. That's a freaking deal of the lifetime right there. And again, no MI and no payment on the down payment assistance money on a monthly basis. You just pay it back when you refinance or sell. Now jumping in, any quick questions on that, or that's kind of got it? Yep. So 30-year fix today, we're at 7. We jumped back over 7, right? So I'm gonna eat some words that I've been predicting, right? I've been saying that I thought that we would be in the 5s for sure by now. And last month we were, right? On February 2nd, we were at 5.99. On March 2nd of this month, we were at 6.98, almost exactly 1% higher. And why? Because they revised some retail numbers, which is inflationary and a bunch of other mumbo jumbo that is that. And now we're moving forward. Comments made by Fed Chairman Powell is totally, I mean, he's already poising it. Part of his poise is to try and soften the market. But I've made a bunch of notes here, if you can see them, or you can look at them later, that today, like I said, for conventional 30, we're at just over 7% on a fixed. FHA, which reduced its monthly mortgage insurance premium down over a third, 40%, is a good option to check, because if you put 20% down, you're still going to have MI with FHA. You don't on conventional. But when it's the margin between the two on the rates and the MI, it might be a good savings. Plus, it's more forgiving on guidelines for FHA buyers. So that's a good alternative check. What I wanted you to point out in today, and the little arrow coming up to 7.5 versus 5.8. In a normal market, there's a margin between the 10-year T-bill, which is normally about 1.85. That margin will fluctuate a little bit, sometimes lower, sometimes higher, but it's a good average. So that would put our rate today, I would expect it to be a fixed 30. Instead of at 7, it would be 5.8, right? So there's some market fluff built in. One, we're grabbing money. The other is, and we also, which I didn't put on here, have you heard of the inversion, right? Temporary inversion on the rates. Right now, the 10-year T-bill is lower than the 2-year. So investors, it's a supply and demand thing. When investors throw money into the market, they're usually buying the 10-year, they're getting a higher return. Like if you go to your bank, if you put it in for 3 months on a CD, you get a lower rate than if you lock it in for a year. Same kind of concept. So with the 10-year T-bill going under, which has been predicted and has kind of bounced around, that is 2 things. One, it signals a recession's coming, and all the news media is going to be, I'm sharing this so you can combat the news media and your clients to make them at peace with what they're doing in buying a house today, because they should. It is that 5.8, we're at 7, and part of that is that inversion. Rates are a supply and demand, just like housing is a supply and demand. And right now, and I'll talk about this down here, which is what is affecting the rates, but right now the supply is not even, the money that's out there is not going to fund mortgages right now. It's funding the 2-year, which does not fund mortgages. And they're doing that just on a cash flow basis as things go. What's going to affect that moving forward? What do you want to watch moving forward to try and keep on top of rates, besides talking to someone like me? Is you want to watch the inflation, like I've been talking. The goal right now is to get down to 2%. We are currently in the 6% range. He is doing everything. He being Fed Chairman Powell is doing what he can by raising rates without trying to kill the economy. Although once you get that bus moving down the road, it's hard to stop it, because that's what he did. During COVID, he went like this. His number one, he is mandated by law to control inflation. That's his number one job. And he went like this and he had to, right, during COVID. Everyone lost their jobs and he was trying to get employment back. So he didn't care about inflation. Plus the money that the government was giving away was feeding inflation. It knew it would show up, and it's happening now. So we want to watch inflation. Right now we're in the 3s. He wants to get 4.5 to 5. The price of oil, right? Everything is made, products are made by oil. Brent crude is the raw oil. We're in the 75 range. We want to be in about the 50 range. That has been fluctuating, and you can all see it in the news with OPEC and everything that's going on. CPI, CPE, by the way, I posted what I'm talking about a couple days ago in the Brent Gove team meeting. And a few days, maybe a week ago, I did the one about CPI and CPE. What's the difference? Because there is a difference in what the Fed's doing on that to kind of watch it. M1, M2, I'm trying to be quick here, is money supply. Everything is about money, right? Supply of money, supply and demand factors. And the money that's out there is drying up. I've been watching this for a while, and quantitative easing, remember that term that was going around a while back? Government was giving away $50 billion a month into mortgages and everything that's going on. They pulled that away. What did that mean? No one was talking about it. Less supply of money, rates were going to go up. Well, it's continuing to do that. and the M1, which is all the money that's out there right now that's in your checking account, your deposits, your CDs, short-term money that's out there to fund loans is going down as well. Those are gonna be, if we didn't even have the inflation issues, just that alone would tell me rates are gonna be going up. So watch that. And then, of course, political leadership. Well, regardless of whether you're Democrat, red, blue, pink, green, whatever it is, that I've studied this and I kind of feel like I cracked the code in some regards. And the policy of the leadership, it doesn't matter what they, political bend they're with, but their policies that they put into place does affect interest rates because they appoint certain people to different positions. And so we have that coming up here soon, but the policies that are in place right now are also sort of inflationary, which is fighting the whole thing. So we're going to be in for a bumpy ride. What does that mean on the short term? The longer term is, I don't see what I thought we were going to see by this time, nor by the end of the year. I think it'll start softening, hopefully by the end of the year, if inflation gets under control. But we're going to be in very volatile, turbulent rates. There'll be moments where rates are going to drop way down, and then they're going to bounce back up. Your clients, and you need to advise them, is to get them more than ever pre-approved, get all their information in, so that way they can do, pull that trigger when that moment happens, because it just is going to be a blip in time as we go through this bumpy sort of ride. So that's a super fast version of a lot of information. Feel free to reach out to me.
What's your phone number, Rodney?
My cell phone is 916-223-2775. You can call me or text me. You can also go to my website, getmoneyforyou.com, all spelled out. You can go onto there. You can grab my calendar link is there. Everything is there. You can reach me in lots of different ways, and I'm happy to help out. And then there's a million different programs that are out there. We didn't talk about that, but strategy and structure is going to be even more important than ever.
Hey, Rodney, can you put your phone number across the top of that board just for people on Zoom? Just write it right across the top. And that way all the Zoomers can have it. If we didn't have a pen handy, we could take a picture with our cell phones.
We also
It's
got in the
also
chat.
going to be in the chat.
Yep. I'm old school. I like to see it written on the board.
Me too.
Great job. That was awesome, buddy. You did. That was fantastic.
Much. I appreciate that. You're welcome.
All right, everybody. Before I forget, Miss Lexi, I think you got something you wanted to share real quick.
Oh, yeah, okay, super fast. I know that you guys, or most of you guys know, I'm with Lennar Title. We have a military discount that most of you guys should know about. It's 25% off of the escrow fee for those who qualify: veterans, military, reserves, National Guard. But we have a new discount for first responders, which I don't believe anyone in our industry has this one yet that I'm aware of. I don't know, maybe you guys know something different. Oh, you do? Okay, so first responder discount. So I have flyers for this. If you guys want the information, I will pass it around.
Thank you so much, Lexi. How can they reach out to you if they have a question?
My cell phone is the best. So 916-412-7402.
Awesome. And then real quick, before we get into the meat and potatoes for today, I do want to share a couple of upcoming events. We do have the top producer panel. It's happening March 23rd from 10 to noon over at PCAR. It's gonna be fantastic. If you are not registered for this event, you need to be registered for this event. We're gonna be learning from local top producers who are winning in today's market. Bring people from your offices, bring team members, bring agents at other brokerages. Everybody is welcome. So that's happening March 23rd. And then don't forget, we're still running the fundraiser. EXP is raising money for a good cause, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. If you want to donate, go to EXP LLS, stands for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, explls.com. It'll take you to this page. If you want to know more, like what Rodney was talking about, I'll put this in the chat box, but I would suggest you go to Housing Wire, and there's a fun podcast about what's happening in rates. This is what my coach, Bill Pipe, sent to me today, and he suggested that we listen to this. It is a little bit longer. You can speed it up, and you can hear exactly what is happening in rates and what that means for you, your business, and your clients. I'll put this in the chat as well. And then last but certainly not least, we got our speaker for today, Mr. Barry Mathis. Barry Mathis, please welcome Barry Mathis to the stage, everybody.
Thank you. Hey Brent, I think I heard your voice out there. And guess what, Brent? I am going off with a yellow pad.
I love it. Thank you.
I
Thank
usually I'm a PowerPoint guy, and so I don't think anyone's ever heard me do a talk off the yellow pad, so that'll be fun. All
Love
right,
it.
so hey, isn't that right, Brent? You've never seen me do that, have you? All right, so hey, we're gonna jump into, actually, it's the same subject matter. So our subject matter today is how to work with investors in this changing market. And I know I see several faces in the room that do work with investors. And so I may even call on you to give me a little input and let me know how I'm doing. Definitely ask questions that are in the minds that you're getting from your investors right now. So it's funny that we're talking about interest rates, and I'm gonna probably bore you just a little bit, but I want you to really understand. It's one thing to know what are the rates doing, what are the Feds doing, and we hear this talk all the time. But do you really know how to convey that to what effect does that have on the behavior of your investor client? It really does make a difference. So how many people can tell me how many Americans or how many people in America own their own home, whether they're Americans or not?
Am I pretty clear?
Yeah, not you, Rodney. You know. Okay, I'll call on you when I need that answer. So how many people do you think own their home, not free and clear? They have a mortgage, they're buying a home, they're not a renter, they own a home.
65.
65% is probably pretty close to the right number. Might actually be 64 now, but we're pretty dang close. In California, it is probably 60. If you looked at the nation, it's probably a little higher. In California, it runs a little lower. All right, so all of those people do what? Hey, Rodney, out of those mortgages, what do you think, rough number, the percentage of those that are under 4%?
Probably like 65%.
Yeah, maybe. Think about this. In the last 4 years, we've had low rates, right?
Mhm.
So everyone that owned a home in the last 4 years, other than this year, should have refied. And if they didn't, then hooey on them, they're not going to get a chance to for a while. But they should have refied. So all of those rates are low. They're staying low. That means that those houses most likely might not become available, right? Because they're doing the math and they're saying, we're just going to keep this house, right? Now, when those people keep that house, but they still have a life circumstance that makes a change, what do they then become? They become an investor, because now they've got to keep this house. They still wanted to move. They still got a bigger family that still needed to move, but they got a 2% interest rate over here. So they're not going to let go of that. Now they're going to be a landlord, right? So now we have these new landlords. How does that affect life? Well, for me, I looked at it and said, hey, great time to open property management business. Right? Because I've been here before. We've seen the cycle. Those of you that have been in the business for a long time, you've seen this cycle. So that's a great example of how those interest rates are affecting behavior. We're going to have more first-time homeowners that are becoming landlords during the next 2 years than we've ever seen, right? It's going to happen because they don't want to give up that interest rate, right? So talk to me about that interest rate. We know that interest rates are somewhat affected by what the government does, right? The government right now is affecting the interest rates by changing the money, the floor of the money, basically. You could think about it like that. They're changing the floor of what businesses and banks and other people loan money to each other at. That's what they're changing. The market changes the rest of it. So the Feds change the foundation, the market changes the structure, right? So what does that structure look like? Well, the first layer of that structure is the 3-month T-bill. Right? So what's that 3-month T-bill running at right now?
As of right now, according to Y charts, it's at 4.87.
4.87. Wow, that's pretty good return, right? Tell me, do you know what the average in 2021, and you might not know this, I looked it up, I cheated. So what is the average apartment cap rate? In 2021, quarter Q4, 2021 across the nation, the average apartment was a 4.5% return. Cap rate. Cap rate is the net operating income, right? Divided by the purchase price, which basically is a proxy for your yield on that property. Guys, think about that. I could go get a T-bill that's flexible for 3 months. I could get my money back in 3 months. How long do you think it'll sell an apartment building? Probably longer than 3 months. I can go get a T-bill that will return to me the same amount of money that my apartment complex will, I understand not really the same because you factor in a lot of other stuff, but for cash flow, it's going to give me the same return for one investment return, right? Which is the one investment return that most people pay attention to, even though we know there's appreciation, depreciation, all of these other factors, but that is a big deal. If you don't understand that, you're not quite getting what your investor is looking at. With no risk, I can get a 4.5% return. With a lot of risk of running an apartment complex where I could get sued every day. I have hundreds of tenants that hate me and they want to not pay their rent on time. The whole place could fall apart. I could be in California and they could just say, hey, you don't have to collect rent, you don't have to pay rent anymore. All of those risks I'm taking on as an investor, and I could get the same return on a T-bill backed by the United States government, right? So let's say I want to stretch that out a little longer. What's a 6-month return or a 2-year return?
2 years, 5.05.
5%. That's a big deal. I can get a 5% return. Again, no risk. I get my 5% return. Tell me about a 10-year.
10 years, looking at 3.98.
That's the inversion.
That's the inversion. See that? If I'm willing to lock my money up for 2 years, they give me 5%. If I'm willing to lock it up for 10 years, they give me 4%. That's the market talking. That's not the Feds talking. The Feds are trying to change the market's language. The Feds are trying to make the market do something. The market is saying, we think later on, these higher returns aren't going to be here. What they're specifically saying is 10 years from now, we think we'll be able to get a better interest rate than what the Fed is offering on the 2-year. That's what the market is saying. So you understand now how these forces are playing against each other, and they're playing out in real time at extreme measures like no one's ever seen before, right? What does that mean for your investor? Okay, so number one, we have 2 different types of investors. You have to understand which type your investor is. If you're talking to someone, everybody knows about the DISC profile, right? We've talked about that ad nauseum, right? But you know when you're talking to someone that you can figure out their profile sometimes by the language that they use. So this is the same thing when you're talking to your investor, right? If your investor is starting to use language that relates more to long-term hold, that relates more to buy and hold, or talks about cap rates over the long term, or 10-year returns, or he's investing for his kids' college. If he's starting to use these time-defined periods of time that are longer, then now you need to be talking to him about buy and hold. Now you need to be talking to him about the advantage of the 5 different returns on investment. I've done that talk. If you want to know more about that, you can look at my YouTube page. There's also a course you can take and go through at your pace. Very simple to do, certifiedinvestmentexpert.com. Go through that course if you like. I'll give a discount code. I don't know what the code is. I think it's TEAM, and you get a discount code there.
Certified what?
Certifiedinvestmentexpert.com. So that's not what I'm talking about, but those 5 returns on investment, you need to understand that language if you're talking to somebody about buy and hold. This is the guy that's going to buy a 4-plex. He's going to buy a duplex. He's going to buy a single family, but to rent, not to flip, right? This might be the guy that's going to buy 16. Anybody tell me the difference between 16 units in our area and under 16 units?
Property management on site.
On-site property manager, whole different game than 16 and above. And you better be able to really cash flow. And I can tell you, you're probably not. Right? So you can do some shared property management. There's some ways to do that, but you better skip right over 16 and jump right up to maybe 40 or 50, because in between there, you're going to have problems with cash flow and maintaining what you need to maintain. So everybody understand what I just said? Okay, I'm going to keep moving on. Stop me anytime you want me to really expound on something or you didn't understand it.
Breathe.
All right. So we talked about rates. Rates are basically an expression of risk, right? So I have this fixed rate and then I've got this risk rate. Well, what's a junk bond? Everybody know what interest the stock market is? See, the real estate agents, we only pay attention to houses. The problem is our investors are investing what? They're investing money. So their eyes go across housing. Housing is only one bucket that they look at. They also have annuities. They also have stocks, they have bonds, they have all these fancy things. They have all the stuff that Wall Street sells that you don't pay any attention to for the most part. Heck, when we started EXP, nobody even knew what stock was. Half the agents that were first coming into EXP didn't even have a stock account. The first time they got a stock account was because EXP gave them stock, right? Otherwise, they didn't even have an investment account. That's crazy, right? There's no way you should have ever had all of your money tied up in one asset, but we do as real estate agents all the time. Your clients don't. Your clients, you're one piece of what they have, so you have to learn how to express why your piece offers them some diversification, why your piece will be cyclic, why rent is an inflation adjusted return. Think about this. I buy a property, they pay me in today's dollars what today's rent is. 10 years from now, they will not pay me in today's dollars, they will pay me in 10 years from now today's dollars, right? Because all along the way, if you have me as your property manager, or if you have any property manager worth their salt, or if you're an investor that's serious about being investing, you won't be the friend of the tenant, you'll be the friendly with the tenant, but you're not their friend. You're their investor, and you're raising rents by at least 5% every year. And if you're not, then you're actually their friend and you're subsidizing their income based on your lack of income. So I hope you got plenty of money. Nothing wrong with that. I work for some people that are my clients and they would rather be friendly than make the money. Okay, as long as they know that, as long as that's their choice, right? So if you want to be friends with your tenants, great. But just remember, you got to raise those rates or you're subsidizing their lifestyle.
Is it still 6% cap to raise the rent per year?
It's 5% plus 5%. So roughly 5% plus the CPI, which has been 5%, been greater than 5% for a long time. So you can get away with 10% all day long.
Okay.
And here's the funny thing, this is government intervention. We'll just pause there for a second. What happens when you bring in rent control? Now everyone raises it to 10% every time. Before, they were only raising it 2% or 3%. They thought they were being a meanie if they raised it 5%. Now they're like, oh crap, I can only raise it 10%, so I better get it in now. So across the board, my portfolio clients are going, yep, let me know when it comes up. You don't even have to ask me, just go ahead and raise it 10%. Right? Because they don't know when next month they might come out and say you can't raise it anymore. They're wanting to jack that puppy up every time, right? That's government, what John Smith called the invisible hand, right? But working the opposite way of what he meant. Okay. So what are the investors looking at today? So we've kind of run you through this basic so you understand where everybody's feeling it. The lender's talking about it, right? Everybody's talking about it. The news is talking about it. Everybody's talking about it, right? What does that do to your investor? What does it do to his mindset, right? It makes him not want to take risk, right? Our job, I would say my greatest skill in the world, a lot of people ask you what your strengths are. I think my greatest strength is getting people off the fence, right? There's one thing about Barry, you either love him or you hate him. Right? There's not a lot in between, right? And so I have Thank you very much. Thank you. But there's not a lot in between, right? I would say that the same thing about Brent. That personality style is awesome. But we have met some people that it's just too much. It's over the top, right? Which is great. You should have that somewhat that effect. You should care about people, not offend them, but at the same time, they should know you were there, right? That's one of the things we love about Brent is that passion, right? Are you laying some passion in when you talk to your investors? Are you letting them drive the conversation? You might be letting them drive the conversation because frankly, deep down inside, you think they know more about it than you do. And guess what? They might. So you got to learn. You got to spend some time. You got to read the Wall Street Journal instead of TikTok, right? And so you got to play with what you're learning, right? Because I guarantee you, my clients, I've got one client, he's got a $15 million portfolio. Okay. He knows his numbers. Right? When we talk a little bit about nice stuff, but most of the time we're talking about his numbers. We're talking about what's going on, right? I've got another client that could drop and buy whatever he wants today, $2 or $3 million. He could marshal all his assets and pull that money together. He's a private money lender. And what is he thinking about right now? Right? These are the kinds of guys you want to know. Why? That client I've done probably 12 deals with, right? Now he's a fix and flip guy. He's not a buy and hold guy. He's fix and flip all day long. He doesn't really get excited at all about buying homes, right? But he'll give you a 12.5% return on his money all day long, right? That's his minimum. right? He doesn't even think in anything less than that. Most of your investors that are in that kind of range, they're probably thinking about a 15% return on their money all day long. That's what they want. And they don't get out of bed for anything else, right? So how are you going to show that to them? Can you use your 5 returns on investment to add up? I can tell you this, a break-even property probably is making 25 to 30% return. If it's break-even, no cash flow. But if you don't learn those other returns, you're never going to find a property that's going to show them 20% return unless you bring these other factors into it, right?
Barry, could you just name those 5? And then if they want to learn more, they can go to.
Yeah. So again, mostly when I'm talking about the 5 returns on investment, I'm purely talking about buy and hold guys, not fix and flip guys. See how I separate? You got to know who you're talking to, right? So buy a fix and flip guy doesn't give a damn about appreciation. He doesn't care about depreciation, right? So that's 2 of them. Appreciation and depreciation. Those are our 2 favorites, although most of us don't know how to calculate depreciation. You can learn that in a course, or just come talk to me, either one. And then cash flow. Your tenants are paying you money and they're paying down your loan, right? So you've got your loan being paid down by the tenants. You've got cash flow coming in on top of that. And then you've got can't even think of it. I wrote the
Appreciation.
depreciation. Yes. So you appreciation, depreciation, you've got your tax deduction of the interest, right? And so then you have your cash flow and then you have your principal pay down, right? So those are your 5. Principal pay down by the tenant, cash flow, depreciation of interest, your deduction of interest, depreciation and appreciation. Those are your 5. And each of them have a calculation that go with them. It's one of those things that it's not hard, but it's not simple, right? There's some things that are complex, but they're not hard. So none of it is hard. You can learn it. I have a 9th grade education, right? And you can learn all of this. It's very simple math, right? But you do have to take the time to do the math, right? And the trouble is that you have to either learn rules in your head for proxies, or you have to do the math on every transaction. I literally build a spreadsheet when I want to do something. Right now, I'm flipping a house. I built the spreadsheet. Rodney's seen my spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. I don't do the math in my head. Rodney does it in his head, right? I don't do it in my head. I'm not that smart, but I know how to work a spreadsheet. So you've got to do this because your clients want to hear this language. That's the issue. So let's go back to fix and flip. So your fix and flip guys right now, what are they doing, right? Why do I focus on fix and flip? Because these are fun. You can get a lot of deals done, right? Guess what? You think that this market has fix and flips?
Yes.
Yeah? Do you think they're as common as they were 2 years ago? No. What was going on a few years ago? We had what? Appreciation, right? What did that mean? Well, you've heard the story about a rising tide raises all ships. It means you could be a crappy flipper and still do very well. Matter of fact, in some cases, I saw clients that had mistakes that happened that caused them to hold for a year instead of the normally any flipper is trying to get in and out in 90 days, right? And I saw mistakes that had happened that caused them to hold for a year, and they wound up doing better than if they had sold it in 90 days, right? That's because that has nothing to do with them. And that's where the humbleness has to come over. The guys that have been burned, they get this, they understand that they have that chance. Somebody's going to have to time me because this is dead. All right. So let me know if I'm getting within 5 minutes. I'll wrap up. All right. So when those flippers are flipping and they're holding long-term in an appreciating market, it works in their favor. Would you say this is an appreciating market or a depreciating market? This is a depreciating market. There's not one measure or statistic that you can look at that won't tell you that. We did see a little bit of an uptick when rates dropped down for a little bit, right? Which shows you what will happen if we get that rate drop again, right? This is a weird environment. We had not a demand side problem, but we had a supply side problem. The feds are not equipped to deal with supply side problems. They've never even discussed supply side problems. Supply side problems is what we have this time. That's what makes us different. That's why they're not just responding to the interest rates being increased and increased and increased. They're still affecting demand. It's a supply issue that's coming back to market right now. So that's what's affecting us. But that's bigger picture. Let's go back to those flippers. So what's a flipper do, right? I'm going to give you the secret for almost every flip. And you can tell me, I haven't discussed this with Cindy, but Cindy works with a large flipper probably bigger than mine even. And so I would say that they all follow something similar to this model with slight variations. After repair value, minus 30% is pretty much what you can offer for the house. That's it. It's really simple. Why do they do that? Why is it so simple? Because they've done it. They've ran the numbers. So they're not being flippant. They're not. Some people would look at that. Let's say that we have I'll use Rob. Rob is an organized guy. He is pretty squared away. He is not just flippantly doing things. When he runs numbers for Brent, he runs it out, right? He's going to spreadsheet it out. He's going to make sure that this is a real number. It's not something made up. These flippers aren't making stuff up. They're not being flippant when they use a rule of thumb is what we call it. They're not being flippant. What they're doing is they've done it so many times, they know it's going to come out that way, right? That's the ones that really understand it. And you do have people that went to a school and they don't understand why they're doing it that way, right? But that's basically what it is. After repaired value, minus 30%. Can they go 25%? Yeah. Could they go 20%? Maybe, if they're really good on their margins, if they have a crew. Some people will go down and take a less percentage, less margin deal because they've got a crew that they need to keep working, right? That's your crew is incredible when you're flipping houses, right? And so one of my flippers is out looking at a property right now while I'm here. He just texted me at a property I sent him. That guy's got crews that have been with him for 9 years. He's got to keep those guys busy. Will he take 10,000 on a deal instead of 50? Yeah, if that's what he needs to keep his crew going, right? So think about that. So right now in a down market, what my investor said, I called an investor on the way in here. And I said, hey, what's your feeling right now? Right? I just want to hear straight from your lips. What are you feeling? Right? He said, I feel like I'm only going to play hot potato. I said, what do you mean by that? What's hot potato? Hot potato is I'll get into something, but only if I can get in and get out and get in and get out and get in and get out. I'm not doing development. I'm not buying something and I'm not doing a flip that's going to take $200,000, right? I'm not buying a place for $6 million, putting 200 into it to sell it for $1 million. I'm not doing that. I'm doing a $45,000 remodel, right? What's $45,000? Any 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet. I don't even have to walk into it. I'll remodel it for $45,000, right? As long as the roof is still there, right? And even if I don't count the roof, I'm probably still okay because over time, if I do 20 of those, I remember when the market was diving. I mean, when we were turning properties, bidding at the courthouse steps and things like that, what was their rule of thumb? Their rule of thumb was these are crews. They put up whole crews that they would have people sitting here on phones, people over here at the courthouses in 6 different counties, 20, 40, $50 million on the table. And they would just be buying and somebody would have to drive to the property, make sure it was still standing while they were bidding at the courthouse steps, that kind of stuff, right? These guys, they basically said, we'll make a mistake every 20 deals. So 1 out of 20, we won't make money on, we'll make a mistake because we can't get rid of all the risk, right? So we'll make a mistake. So the same thing here. Yeah, I might make a mistake by getting into a property and not quite having that margin that I want, but over time, that's going to weed itself out, okay?
Can we go through, all race the board while you can see,
Yeah.
but can we go through an example of how that ARV minus 30% actually plays out? So if you were to itemize it out,
Yeah, absolutely.
all race the board.
And we got a couple of flippers in the room, so you can keep me honest here. So, but let's just start doing it. Somebody grab a calculator and get ready to go. So let's buy a house. I'm going to give you one right now. Let's buy a house for, we won't tell you the buy price right now because I actually don't care about the buy price yet. What did I start with?
ARV.
ARV. You'll see this called ARV. It's after repaired value, right? So we're going to buy a house for after repaired value is going to be $400,000. Let's think Antelope, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot house. Everybody, that's 400,000, right? Maybe 425 if I do a good job, right? But $400,000, right? So what's it gonna, first thing I'm gonna throw in there is repair cost. I can basically flip that house. I can do new cabinets, new counters, new roof, or maybe just a skin on a roof, 1 layer on a roof. How many layers can you go on a roof?
2.
2, sometimes 3. Don't ask your contractor. You can't see the first layer, that's the key. So you get those layers on the roof. So let's go remodel, $45,000. That's probably gonna get me new countertops, new counters, new floors, new paint, a roof fix, windows, some windows, not all the windows maybe, and some AC work, not all the AC work. I'd have to take it up to 60. But remember, I'm a contractor. I got guys that work for me. I can do, this is one of the biggest things you don't understand. What you would call out as a homeowner to get done will cost you 85,000. What me and my crew can probably do for 45,000. And those are probably realistic numbers, right? You're gonna get quoted, roof is a big one. You'll get quoted $20,000 for that roof that I only pay $5 grand for. Right? So anyway, so all right, so 45. So we've got that $45,000 remodel. It probably cost me, this is where the differences start to play out, right? I've got financing. So let's go the easy one, holding cost. So we got taxes. How much is taxes on 400,000?
About 400 a month.
Roughly, it's 1.1%, right? So divided, times in that. So let's just say $400 a month. We'll go with that. You got some insurance you want to throw in on there? Probably going to be, let's say $100 a month, just to keep it simple. There's $500. So now we're at $6,000 for the year, right? If you held it for a year, but you're not going to hold it for a year. So now we got to find, that's what we call our holding cost. But we've got one more number to add before we get to the holding cost. You can get rid of this. Yeah, that's it. Good. One more number to add for the holding cost. What is that?
Utilities, we don't pay till the end.
Yeah, we don't really count those. Yeah, you're right. You have to pay those.
Those are payments if you bought.
Okay, throw $75 on there for utilities, but okay,
Interest on the loan if you.
there you go. This is where you have to know your investor, right? You have to have these conversations. I get agents call me all the time. Hey, this guy wants to be an investor, blah, 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 blah. I can't go anywhere in this conversation unless I know where your money's coming from. What flavor of money do you have? Do you have mama money that's sitting in your bank account that's there? You've got cash there, and your only cost at that point is the lost opportunity cost, right? Because it's sitting in a bank, you're not making any interest on it. But I could come over here and put it in a T-bill and get 5%, right? So I got to factor something in there, right? So most people don't look at it that tight, but that's how you should look at it if you're the investor. But your clients probably aren't looking at it that tight. Go ahead.
Isn't that tax number supposed to be 600 plus 60?
You mean the.
I got 400, 175. 400 a month is probably your tax number.
Okay.
Yeah, 4,000. It's roughly 4,000 divided by 12. So
100.
yeah, so we're just making up some numbers here, but you get how you get it. You get the overall tax.
It's like 60, but
Right.
it's 100.
Yeah,
It's just the black line didn't go through.
yeah, that's true. Okay, so now let's take look at this financing cost. So there's another. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna change the subject.
Okay, another kind of money on this financing cost. So we've got that kind of money. Then we've got a regular loan, right? Maybe your house is not so decrepit that you could get regular financing. So then you'd have a 7% interest rate on probably make you put down 20%. So now you've got 7% on, let's just do simple interest, 7% on $340,000, $20,000.
Probably like 600 a month just on interest.
Probably. Roughly, right. But that's the low end, because you're probably not using a lender for this, because if the house is bad enough to get you to come in there, you probably can't get traditional financing. But that's our floor, right? So what am I going to pay? Remember earlier I talked about, this is crazy. Remember earlier I talked about the interest rate and your return. So if I'm a regular lender and I'm charging 7%, what do you think a private money or hard money lender is going to charge?
Up to 15. Minimum.
Into the double digits.
Yeah, double digits, right? If they're smart, they move to 12 now, no doubt, right? Because why would they, right? You know what? For 6.5% return, I could go out here and get a bond on this hospital because they want to put in a new helipad. And I can get a bond on that hospital that's going to be there for the next 100 years. I have almost no risk, right? So if I'm going to take the risk of this crazy property with this crazy guy that may not have done their flip, then I need to get 12.5, 13, 14% on my money, right? By the way, anybody know what the usury law is in California? What's the most money you can borrow? What's the most money you can
Unless the
charge?
broker is involved.
Right, unless a broker is involved, and what is it?
I think it's 10%.
It's 10%, right? So either a lot of deals are being done illegally, which is actually what's going on,
Yeah.
or you got to get that rate up higher so it's business to business and get a broker involved, okay? So 12.5% is a nice return right now. That's probably what you're doing is 12.5. What difference did that make for us? Do the math, 320,000.
It doubled it.
Huh?
It doubled it.
Right. So we went from 7. So now we're at $1,200 a month just on my financing. See how that happens? So I don't really care as a flipper, how much money I'm paying on my financing, because I'm only gonna be in there in 90 days. So I really only have 3 months of that, right? But I do care, I just gotta put it in my calculation. But my lender's probably knows that too. He knows he's getting paid back quick, and that's not what he's in the business of, so he wants a little money for his trouble. And we call those points, right? So how many points? Maybe 3 points. So what's a point? $3,200, 320,000, a point is 3,200. So now I'm $9,000 out of pocket on that. Plus my $1,200 a month for financing. So I'm $15,000 on my financing. Right? Let's throw in some closing costs. Now we're just gonna say 20 grand. Right? Now we're out 20 grand. So we had the purchase price. I mean, we have the after repair value minus 45,000 minus 20, so minus 65. So now we're what, the 335 on our price.
What about the acquisition cost?
I haven't even got there yet. I haven't determined the acquisition price yet. I don't know what I can pay for it yet. Oh, the acquisition cost. Yeah, I threw the closing cost in. It was like $2,000. When it's in my 20 right now.
That's in the 20.
Yeah, it's in the 20. Yeah. All right, so there we're at. Now I'm at 335,000. But that's my break-even number. 335,000. Do you think I might want to make some profit? Go ahead.
Calculate realtor fees too for like.
On the sales side. Yep,
Oh, not right now.
not yet. On this side, because they're probably included in the price charged by the lender. If it's listed, then they're being paid by the seller. Does that make sense?
No, but when you go to sell.
When I go to sell, I have to count it. Yeah. Yes, but I'm only counting it on the sell side in the future, right? So let's take so we're at 20% now. I mean, we're at 20,000 now. Let's take out, let's say roughly 7% for the cost to sell. You might say 6%, you're paying a 5, and you're getting cost of title and escrow and all that. So 6% of the 400 is 24,000, right? Did I do that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, 24,000. So throw another 24 on there for the sell cost. And change acquisition to financing. Or added to it. Yeah,
Acquisition.
yeah, acquisition. Sales cost,
That's the liquidation side.
when I'm flipping it on the other side of it. So we were at 335, now we're at 24 minus 35 minus 306, 309, 311. Thank you. Now you know how I use spreadsheets. So now we're at 311,000, and I have not made a profit yet. Right? So what kind of profit do I want? Earlier, we said we're wanting about a 15% return. So what numbers go back into that? Well, I've got to put down some cash. So let's assume that I had to put down 20% on my purchase price. Right now, it's looking like we're getting pretty close to 300,000. So let's say I've got 60,000 tied up. I've also probably got to pay for that remodel. So now I've got 105,000 tied up, and I've got those holding costs of 15,000. So now I've got 125 tied up plus, but I don't have to count the sales cost on that because this is actual money out of my pocket. In order to do this deal, I can't do the deal unless I've got 125,000 in my pocket, right? Some lenders will, that's not quite true, but let's just, for the sake of this conversation. The reason it's not quite true is I actually have lenders that will finance the repairs as well.
Yeah.
But let's say you got 125,000 out of your pocket and you want a 15% return. So what's my 125,000 times 0.15?
About 20,000.
Okay, there's my 20 grand. So the bare minimum that I could offer for this property, the bare maximum that I can offer for this property is $295,000. Everybody see how we went from a $400,000 sales price to a $295,000? This is how every investor, with slight modifications, every investor that flips houses that I've ever talked to has this kind of math in their head. What's
And just for giggles, what's 30 or 70% of 400K?
280.
280,000.
So his rule, right? ARV minus 30, it's within spitting distance of 295.
See how close it is? What would make that vary? Maybe if I had Wall Street money behind me, right? If I had billions of dollars, right? Maybe if I was named Open Door, right? Or Zillow or some of these companies, how can they get tighter margin? Because they have the crews, they have the money to not idle the crew, and they do the same thing. They buy their stuff on a bigger scale. Maybe instead of doing my repair cost at 45, I could get it down to 35 if I use the same kind of granite in 1,000 houses. Right? Think I'd get a deal from the supplier? Yeah, probably.
Holding costs.
Right. So a lot of different reasons for that. Does that, any questions on that?
Was this helpful?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Barry. You got anything else?
Nope, I think I'm good. Let me look right here. Oh. Dry gunpowder. Right now, what your investors need is dry gunpowder. If they have marginal investments that aren't really happy with, they're not making them a lot of money. You've got to convince them to get that sold so that they've got the gunpowder ready to buy the deal that comes along. Because deals are here. Somebody's dying. Somebody's getting a divorce. Those deals are already here, and that's a big deal. So they got to have that dry gunpowder ready to go so that they can compete against the ones that do have the margins that look like this. All right. Any questions for me? All right.
You did a great job. Barry, give a round of applause. Freaking phenomenal. All right. So with that, we have none other than the guy who started this team meeting over 20 years ago. He's going to drop some knowledge, share some wisdom. Brent, what do you got for us?
Hey, everybody, great to see you. First of all, Rodney, you graduated from college where?
Sac State.
And did you go on to get another degree?
The School of Hard Knocks.
School of Hard Knocks. Well, man, I just want you to know that was phenomenal. It was really, really educational. I was blown away today. And Barry, 9th grade education, buddy, you have a master's degree in economics. That was brilliant. Everybody's nodding their head. That was super good. Personally, I'm going to listen. I've never heard a team meeting twice. I'm going to listen again to this entire team meeting. I thought it was that well. You want to educate yourself and really understand this. I'm going to close with the story, but before I do, who you hang out with matters. Gene Frederick's like, I don't invest my money unless I get 100% return or a 200% return. And I think life's all about expectations. Your relationship with your wife or your husband or your kids is kind of what you expect. The sales you make or don't make is what you expect. The open house success you have this weekend is what you expect. Your physical health, you're kind of living in the rut of what you expect. And so you got to change things. I never thought in terms of 102 and 300% return. And Barry's right. These 15, 20%, I'm not down on that. But Gene's worth 300 million. They just think differently. Gene's like, I would never invest my money unless it was a minimum 100% return on the investment, and not in forever. We're talking like in 2, 3, 4 years. He thinks in short terms. And I'm thinking, how do you do that? Because I've never been Mr. Investor. I'm Mr. Sales Guy. I love people and I like to sell stuff and I like having a team. I like I see Cindy grinning at me in the back there. Hey girl, what's up? I see all of you. There's Clark, there's Heather. I mean, everybody's here. I love you guys. There's Lexi and there's, so I don't want to leave anybody out. There's a bunch of you and it's great. But here's the deal. I was never the investor. So I've been hanging out with Gene's and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll keep an eye out for something. And sure enough, my taxi cab driver brings me a condo on the beach here in Puerto Rico, and they go for 400,000 fixed up. And it was ugly. We buy ugly houses, right? I've never done this. And he goes, yeah, it's 138,000. He goes, but it's ugly. And so we went and looked at it, and sure enough, it was ugly, but it's on the beach. Location. I go, how much to fix up? You go, make it a luxury condo, kitchen, bathrooms, everything. About $60,000. So if you take 138 and you take 60, what is that, right? There's your 198,000 fixed up over 400. That's a 200,000, about 200,000. Now I have a cost to sell, probably 2.5% on this side, right? But it won't be, because we're real estate agents, we can do the one side. But wow, all of a sudden there's 100%. Now the sad part is I don't need the money now. I needed the money then. It's just like, I remember like you guys like, I want to do that. I want to do that. Come buy a condo. We just paid cash. We bought it like a loaf of milk. It was $138,000. It's like buying a pair of Nikes. Now I remember when I needed money, that's great. I don't have 138. I remember in 2010, I brought a deal to my parents. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in Fair Oaks with the pool on a green belt. 3-2 pool on a green belt. I go, Mom, Dad, you got to buy this. And my mom's like, do not bother us. We are set. Your father and does anything you tell him to do. If you talk to your father, I'll never talk to you again, blah, 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 blah. And guess what? I didn't have the money. It was a cash deal. You know how much it was? $118,000. How much is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a pool in Fair Oaks on a green belt worth today? Anybody got a guess? Take a reasonable guess. Now, I knew it was a good deal. And she's like, nope. And I ended up selling it to a cash buyer. He was so happy with that deal. He came back 2 weeks later after they closed and handed me an envelope this thick. Look at my fingers, that thick with $100 bills. There was thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in cash. And he handed it to me. He goes, I just want to say thank you. And he kind of held my hands together and he goes, send me more like that. And he walked out the building. I didn't know what it was. I didn't open it. I opened it up. I'm like looking around. Am I being filmed? Is this like an FBI sting? Like that had never happened to me. Is this even legal? I thought, I went right into, talk to some, I go, if someone wants to hand you money, they can. Did you say, hey, I'll sell you this and you do this? I go, no, not at all. I go, if someone wants to hand you $5,000, just say thank you. So I came home, I gave it to my wife. Woohoo! Women like money. That's all I can tell you. So, guys like it too. I like it too. But the sad part is when I didn't have it, I couldn't take advantage of those situations. But I do want you to think bigger. I want you to expect more, not like Rolex watches and mansions, but I mean, more impact. Like I'm going to walk into the room today, the team meeting every Thursday, and I'm going to lift that room. I'm going to meet somebody I don't know. Instead of coming in, sitting down and being shy, is that how you're living life? You get your butt out of that chair and you go meet somebody. Hey, I haven't met you before. I'm Tim. I'm Bob. I'm Sally. I'm Kim. My name's Cindy Silva. My name's Rodney Rose. My name's Lexi. You go through that room and you meet people because that's what we do. We like to be acknowledged. Don't come in and say, motivate me. And like, wow, Rodney did motivate me. Barry didn't. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. Life's what you get out of it. I'll end with this. Here's my story. I told him 2 minutes. How am I doing? It's like 9 or whatever. So here's the deal. I even said 2 minutes, maybe 5, LOL. So there's a guy right here. His name is Sean Swarner, because I'm a note taker. I got it all written here. Raise your hand if you heard me tell the story. Sean Swarner, he was 10 years old and was given 3 months to live. Cute baseball, little league kid. Raise your hand if you heard me tell the story. There's a few of you that had to hear it. Clark did. He listens to me all the time. I love you, Clark. The rest of you, bad. So here's the deal. Sean was 10 years old. Imagine Cindy, you have kids. Your girls are those age. The doctor looked at the parents, to Sean, said, I'm sorry to tell you this. You have terminal cancer. You have 3 months to live. And that's kind of could you imagine processing that at the age of 10? And of course, he had this radical cancer battle and he beats it. 2 years later, gets an entirely different kind of cancer. Didn't come back. It was a whole nother one. It was so bad, they gave him 2 weeks. You will be dead in 2 weeks. He beats it. But he lost a lung in that one. So he's got no lung, but he's a 2-time terminal cancer survivor. He's a miracle. He ends up getting a dream board like that. And he puts on his dream board different things he wants to do with his life. Write a book, speak this, sail the 7 seas, climb Mount Everest, bring hope to the hopeless, dig wells for needy people in Africa, blah, 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 all these different things he wanted to do. And you guys should do that too. And I'm going to make my point. But that little climb Mount Everest thing, it was there. I kept seeing it. He started climbing mountains, started climbing peaks. Pretty soon, he found himself at the base camp of Everest, and he found himself climbing Mount Everest with the Sherpas. And I think it's a 25% mortality rate. Like 1 out of every 4, only 3 out of 4 come back. 1 will die. And it's something like that. It's about at least 25% or more. And so he's got 1 lung. It's nearly impossible to do with 2 lungs. And so the dude, they asked him, he made it. He was the first terminal cancer survivor in the world to ever climb Mount Everest, let alone with 1 lung. I think he was the first human being to climb it with 1 lung. By the way, since then, he's completed the Grand Slams. He's climbed Mount Fuji. He's gone to South America, climbed the tallest peaks there in the Andes and Chile. And he's been all over. He trekked to the North Pole. He trekked to the South Pole with people with guns to shoot the polar bears because they will tear you apart on the North Pole. And the guy's incredible. So I heard him speak because I'm into doing this stuff. And long story short, we asked him at the mastermind, there's like 35 of us. So how'd you make it? Because he said it would take 5 minutes to move 5 feet. You're higher than, you ever fly in a 747? You're just as higher than a 737 jet at the top of Everest. And it's, they call it the Hillary step. Sir Edmund Hillary, the first guy to ever climb Mount Everest. Nobody could beat it. They get stuck, and he went around an obstacle and made it. They call it the Hillary step. And he said that last Hillary step, it's like this ridge on a volcano. He said it would take like 60 seconds to move 1 foot. And he said, I guess taking one more step, I just focused on the next step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. But he said something, here's how I made it. He taught me something I've never heard. I've always heard about the vision board. I've always heard about the dream board. Put up a picture of a cabin, your family cabin. You're going to spend time with your family. You're going to, fight sex trafficking. What's your passion project? You're going to feed the people who are hungry. Tony Robbins wants to feed 1 billion people. He's doing it. What is your passion project? So you put it up there, and I've done that. I've got vision boards. We do that stuff. Go to my office. Rob will show you our vision board right there at the office where you guys in the vault. But here's the deal. I've never heard this. He said, but here was the difference. I involved my 5 senses with the vision board. Never heard this. I've been doing this 40 years. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I envisioned what it would be like standing at the top of Mount Everest. He goes, I felt the sun on my face. I felt the wind coming across my body. In my mind, I took my glove off and I reached down and I touched the snow and I felt it in my hands. He goes, I could hear the wind moving through the mountains. I could taste the air has a certain taste at that altitude. I could hear, I could smell. He talked about the smells. He involved the 5 senses. So here's my project for you today to involve the 5 senses, and you're gonna love it. It's so fun. I want you to go look at model homes this weekend, not just have it on the board. People do it all the time. I read another book. It's called Fix Your BS System. People says, I want a Ferrari. Have you ever sat in one? Nope. I want a dream cabin at Tahoe. You ever gone up there looking at dream cabins at Tahoe and actually sat on a couch and walked out on the deck and put your hands on the railing? Did you feel the redwood railing? Did you envision yourself having a cup of coffee on an early morning at like 7:30 in the morning and seeing the crisp blue air and feeling the sun hitting you because the altitude's so high, it's more powerful on your body? Did you smell the pine trees? Did you involve your 5 senses? But maybe you're like, well, I want a Maserati. I want a convertible. Have you sat in a convertible? So this weekend, I want you to go sit in your Ford Bronco, because maybe your dream car's a Prius or a Ford Bronco or a whatever, the Porsche Taycan, the all-electric Porsche. Have you sat in it? Did you go sit in the Lexus that you want? No, I haven't. So that we're going to end with this. I'm going to challenge you to go see, feel, touch, hear, smell the leather inside that car you want, to go into the dream board and to ingrain it into you, because it will inspire you to do what you need to do for your family. For your family. If you want to watch, go put a watch on at wherever you want to watch. A lot of people like watches, clothes, whatever. Go. You don't have to buy, but go to Nordstrom's and try some stuff on, or whatever it is that you do. I mean, I go to this exclusive high-end shop called Golf Galaxy. I go down there all the time and put on their polos. It's awesome. They have a room there. So I'm going to end with that. I'd never heard that. Involve the 5 senses in your vision board, your dream board. I guarantee you go looking at a bunch of model homes, you're going to meet people from the Bay Area that are also looking at model homes, and they're going to say, gee, I love it, but the backyard's too small. And you go, oh, I just came from Lennar. Oh, I just came from, wherever builder, and they got big backyards. Are you serious? Where? Oh, follow me. I'll show you as you're walking. Really? I'll head that way next. It's just right over here. You take them 8 miles, but they get you there. They think you're going to kill them or bring them to Lennar. And then you bring them and say, by the way, they give us a little credit. If we bring people, the price is the same. We just get a little kind of a bonus for telling people about Lenore, would you be cool if I just walked in and handed my card? Pricing's the same. You can even ask the person behind the deck. They go, sure. I've done that many times and received giant commissions of $10, $15, $20,000 because I was out dream building at was it Tolby Homes? What are they called? Toll Brothers. Toll Brother Homes. They're super fun model homes. So do some of that stuff. And I don't know. I hope that was helpful today.
Absolutely.
You got this. We'll see you next Thursday. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Brent. All right, everybody. We'll see you back here same time next Thursday. Have a great weekend.